As your new wife, I'm graciously allowing your mother to live in my old apartment, Harper announced, gripping the microphone in the center of the banquet hall. A murmur of approval swept through the tables. Some guests applauded politely, others nodded with admiring smiles. I stood near the head table, clutching a glass of champagne I no longer had the stomach to drink, feeling every pair of eyes in the room pivot toward me, waiting for my reaction. Harper looked radiant in her fitted white gown, her hair swept up in an elaborate chignon, that smile of hers looking like it had been painted onto her face. My son Liam stood beside her, squeezing her hand with a conspiratorial look, glancing at me with an expression I couldn't quite decipher in that moment. I smiled. It was an automatic gesture, a response conditioned by years of being polite, of not causing trouble, of always keeping the peace. I appreciate your generosity, Harper, I said, my voice as steady as I could manage. But I live very happily at my farmhouse. I don't need to move anywhere. The silence that followed was thick and uncomfortable. I saw guests exchanging confused glances. I heard whispers. Harper kept her smile, but something shifted in her eyes, a cold glint that vanished as quickly as it had appeared. Liam interrupted immediately. "Mom," he said, his voice cutting through the air like shattered glass. "I decided not to tell you earlier because I didn't want to ruin the day, but my in-laws and my sister-in-law are moving there, to your farmhouse. It's all arranged." I felt the floor drop out from under me. The chandeliers in the ballroom suddenly seemed blindingly bright. The background noise faded into a distant hum. I looked at Liam, searching for some sign that this was a joke, some indication I had misheard. But no, he looked at me with absolute seriousness. It was that expression he wore when he had made up his mind and would brook no argument. I scanned the room looking for faces I didn't know well. Harper's parents, her sister, the Sterling family. I swept my gaze over every table decorated with white hydrangeas and linen tablecloths. I searched through the groups of guests chatting and laughing, but they weren't there. "Where are they?" I asked, my voice coming out smaller than I intended. "Where are your in-laws and your sister-in-law, Liam?" "Mom," he replied with a casualness that pierced me like ice. "They went to the farmhouse a few hours ago. We wanted them to start getting settled while we were here at the ceremony. It was just more practical this way." The words rained down on me like stones. While I was here at this wedding reception celebrating what I thought was a special moment for my son, 3 people I barely knew were inside my house, in my farmhouse, in the place I had bought with 30 years of work and sacrifice. Then I spoke up, loud enough for everyone in that hall to hear. "No one lives in my farmhouse without my consent. No one." The silence that followed was absolute. The jazz band in the corner seemed to stop playing. Conversation ceased. Everyone was staring at us now. Liam's face flushed a deep crimson. Harper was no longer smiling. "Mom, you're making a scene," Liam hissed, taking a step toward me. "Don't ruin my wedding with your whims." "Whims?" I repeated, feeling something fracture inside my chest. Defending my property is a whim now? Harper stepped forward, crossing her arms. "Eleanor, my family needs a place to live. You have that huge farmhouse for just one person. It's selfish of you to refuse when I'm offering you my apartment in exchange. It's a fair trade." Fair? That word echoed in my head like a cruel joke. There was nothing fair about this. Nothing fair about them disposing of my home without asking me. Nothing fair about offering me a favor I had never requested. "I didn't ask for your apartment, Harper," I replied, maintaining my calm even though I was trembling on the inside. "And your family has no right to enter my property without my authorization. I don't care what you agreed to between yourselves. That farm is mine." Liam raised his voice. "It's already decided, Mom. They're staying there. You can move into the apartment or find somewhere else, but this isn't negotiable." Not negotiable. The words of my son, of the boy I had raised alone after becoming a widow, of the young man for whom I had worked double shifts at the plant to pay for his tuition, of the man who was now kicking me out of my own home. I took off the shawl I was wearing and let it drop onto the nearest chair. I gripped my purse with shaking but firm hands. I took a step back, distancing myself from them. "So you've decided for me," I said, looking Liam directly in the eyes. "You've decided to give away what isn't yours. You've decided that your mother doesn't even deserve to be consulted about her own home. Mom, don't exaggerate. It's just 3 people. The house has 4 bedrooms. There's plenty of space." Plenty of space, as if that were the only thing that mattered. As if the years I worked to buy that land meant nothing. as if my right to decide over my own sanctuary was something he could just ignore. "I'm leaving," I announced clearly. "I'm leaving this party right."
I looked at him, feeling a profound sadness mixed with something new I was just beginning to recognize. It was anger, it was disappointment, but it was also clarity. "You humiliated me first, son. You decided on my life without consulting me. You gave away what wasn't yours to look good for your wife. Now I decide for myself." I turned around and started walking toward the exit. Every step took an enormous effort. I could feel the stairs burning into my back. I heard whispers, stifled gasps, Liam's name being pronounced with pity or judgment. Harper yelled something behind me, but I wasn't listening anymore. Her words were lost in the buzzing that filled my ears. Liam called me one more time, but I didn't stop. I couldn't stop. If I did, if I hesitated for even a second, I would crumble right there. I reached the exit of the banquet hall and the cool night air hit my face. I breathed deeply, feeling the oxygen fill my lungs. My hands shook as I dug for my car keys in my purse. I had to get to the farm. I had to see with my own eyes what was happening there. I had to face these people who had entered my house as if they had some right to it. I got into my car and locked the door. For a moment, I sat still, gripping the steering wheel tight, trying to steady the tremors in my hands. I could see the lights of the venue through the windshield. I could imagine what they were saying inside, the comments, the judgments, the opinions about the groom's mother who ruined the wedding. But something had shifted inside me. Something fundamental that had nothing to do with what others thought. I started the engine and drove out of the parking lot. The road to the farmhouse was dark. There were barely any other vehicles. The city lights faded behind me as I advanced along the route I knew by heart. It had been 20 years since I bought that property. 20 years since I signed the papers with shaking hands, unable to believe I